Hello and welcome to the channel, guys. This is going to be my first tutorial about how to get that epic, buttery smooth cinematic footage on your GoPro.
Look how picturesque that is.
To start off, we're going to dive into those GoPro settings and we're going to make sure that you have the best settings to produce the highest quality film out of the camera so that when you go into post, you have the most flexible workflow. We want our Pro Tune to be on, our white balance set to auto, our color profile set to GoPro. I personally use flat because it's a little bit easier to edit, but GoPro color gets you very close to that color correction most people are looking for. ISO min needs to be at 100. The ISO max also needs to be at 100 if you're using Hero 6. I believe on the Hero 5, the max is 400, so just go ahead and set that one. If it's at night, you can go from 400 to 1600. Sharpness is going to be on low because you can change that in post and add a little bit of sharpness. That way the camera isn't doing a bunch of processing. EV comp will be set to 0 and stabilization should be on high because the Hero 6 and the Hero 5 both have decent stabilization. There isn't any on the 4 or less. And on the frame rate, always do 60 or higher because most of the time that you're shooting cinematic footage, you'll want the option to slow it down, and we can do that later on in post. So just shoot at 60, that's what I always do. It's worked out well, and that way you can take it down to 40% of the speed on a 24 frames per second timeline. So I would say 90% of the time I'm shooting in 60 frames a second. I rarely use 120 frames a second, but now that that's an option in 2.7K on the Hero 6, I am starting to mix that into some of my B-roll, and it looks pretty cool. Tip number 2, 95% of my footage comes from this little setup right here. You know, I don't use a gimbal, I don't have a drone, nothing fancy. I always have some sort of movement in my shot, whether that's following somebody with the camera or just filming a stationary object like a tree and moving a little bit so that the background creates a little bit of separation. Now, ideally, to get the optimal shot, which I think looks the best, you're gonna do both at the same time. You yourself and the camera are gonna be moving while you follow somebody else. All right, that was a really good shot. Because then when you're following somebody while you're moving, you can do a zoom transition in front of them and get this really cool effect. It's something I enjoy putting into my clips, and you can also implement this technique as well. It can be as simple as starting low and going high with your camera, but you always want to have 3 points of contact. I have 2 hands on here, and I usually tuck my elbows in here because your body's gonna be a lot more stable than when you're reaching out with one hand. Tip number 3, editing. So I would say by far the most important piece of editing is putting your timeline in 24 frames a second, no matter what frame rate you shot at in the field. And you do this because 24 frames per second is the most cinematic look. It's what Hollywood uses. That's how you get the best looking footage. I told you we were gonna get out of here pretty quick today, but I've got a 4th bonus tip for you. And that's just to get creative. You know, ski lifts are an incredible way to make it look like you've got a drone. Almost every time I get on a ski lift, I'm shooting. Try to get the chairlifts and any equipment out of my shot. That way it looks like I'm just flying a drone and I'm not on a chairlift. It looks sweet. So remember guys, go out there, have fun. It's gonna show if you have a good time. Don't worry too much about getting the footage or getting the shots. Just enjoy whoever you're with and what's around you. And I guarantee you it'll reflect in the story of the video and you guys will crush it. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying with me to the end. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really encourages me to continue doing this sort of thing. I've enjoyed it so far, and I know it's only gonna get better from here. So guys, thank you so much. We've got a few videos in the works right now, and I can't wait to release them. See you guys in the next one.